Okay guys, welcome to video 5 in this series. We'll explain why we're making this one after the break, but this one's called How to Help a Friend. As always, you're going to need something to write with and a pen. If you've got sticky notes or some small cut up pieces of paper, they might also be helpful today, but they're not essential. While you go and get them, we decided that this week we're going to show you some animals singing. So the reason we decided to do this video, because it wasn't originally planned, was because a lot of you have been talking about reconnecting with your friends as school's gone back. And some of them are finding it hard, and some of you are a bit worried about how they're coping. So there's a lot of reasons that people might be finding things a bit tougher than usual at the moment. The pandemic, COVID-19, almost goes without saying. Winter sometimes can be really tough for people, not being able to get out and do the activities that they like to do. Also, returning to school. Some of you guys are loving it and it's great to be back, but some of you are finding that transition back to school really tough. But let's face it, sometimes we don't need anything to actually be happening for life to be a little bit difficult. So today we're going to talk about how we help our friends when they see that they're not actually doing so well. So last week we talked about looking after yourself and your own mental health and your own self-care. We talked a lot about signs and symptoms. Quick refresher, if I walked in this morning and started filming and you saw me rubbing my eyes, coughing, sneezing, you'd think they're symptoms or signs that I've got a cold, the flu, or maybe hay fever. Mental health stuff, dealing with life in not such a great way, also has signs and symptoms. So we're going to talk about how we recognise those signs and symptoms. Now, a lot of you guys would be familiar with Are You OK Day. Great initiative, yeah? Being able to actually go up to our friends and say, hey, are you okay? Ask the question. But I don't want to just stop there today. I want to go, once you ask, are you okay? If we actually find out our friend isn't, what can we do about it? What actions can we take? One of the things that actually makes us human is our connections with other people. Now, some of us thrive on that. Us extroverts, us relationship people, we really, really love it. Other people, not so much. They might just need one or two people to connect with. Neither is right or wrong. It's just who we are. But one of the things that actually helps us get the most out of life is how we connect with others. Last week we talked about the SOS, sending out a message for help to the people we love so that we can have good relationships. But we also need to pay attention to other people's SOS messages. And when we can see that they're struggling, work out, okay, it's my turn to help them out. What can I do? How can I have that conversation? So that's the focus of today's workshop. We're going to go and actually meet 4 of our friends and see how they're doing. If I was at your school doing this, we probably wouldn't have 2 Muppets, a superhero and, well, I don't know, whatever that is. But because of COVID and stuff, I've got these guys to volunteer as props today. And we're going to go back to talking about signs and symptoms and starting to think about how each of our 4 friends here are coping. Now, for confidentiality purposes, I'm not going to give you their names. This is just friend 1, friend 2, friend 3 and friend 4, although you probably remember friend 4 from other episodes. I'm going to start off by giving you 2 symptoms of what they're going through. And I want you in your head, or if you want to write it on a piece of paper to help you remember, that's fine, it doesn't matter, to think about if these were your friends and you saw these things happen to them, who would you be most concerned about, most worried about? You might be worried about all 4, you might be worried about none, there's no wrong or right, there's no rules. But think about, based on what I tell you that they're each going through, who would you be most concerned about? Let's start with friend number 1. Friend number 1 is in year 7. They're at a new school. They don't have many friends from their old primary school, and they're actually being bullied a little bit by a group of kids at their school who are kind of nasty to a lot of people. And they're also exercising every day. If they don't exercise, they feel really bad about themselves. Friend number 2, really good student, yeah, always had fantastic grades, A+ student, good at lots and lots of academic subjects. But this year in high school, they found that their grades have dropped a little bit, not masses, but enough that it's noticeable. So those are the 2 things happening for friend number 2. Friend number 3 over here, captain of the school soccer team and also captain of a community soccer team. In other words, massive soccer fan, massive soccer player. Part of their identity is to play soccer, but they got a sports injury recently, and because of that, they can't play soccer anymore. They actually can't play any team sports. They're only allowed to do a bit of light gym work. And friend 4 over here recently broke up with their long-term boyfriend / girlfriend. Yeah, so they'd been dating this person for, let's say, 3 months, and they recently broke it off. It was their decision to do it. They've also given up skating. They really used to love skating, going to the skate park with their friends, but lately they just don't want to do. So at the moment, we've got a new student who's being bullied a little bit, who also exercises daily, a good student whose grades have dropped. We've got a soccer guy who's actually had an injury and can't do soccer anymore, someone who's broken it up with their partner of 3 months and stopped doing what they like. Have a bit of a think about all those symptoms and just take a second. If these were your 4 friends who you all really love, who would you be most concerned about at this stage? Alright, I'm going to give you one more symptom, okay? And again, it may worry you, it may not. There's things called risk factors and protective factors. A risk factor is something that can actually put our mental health at risk, make it worse. Protective factor is something that obviously protects our mental health. So some of these are risk and some of these are protective. We'll go through which is which at the end. So, our first friend here has actually really shy about eating around their friends. So you guys will be hanging out at lunchtime, eating your sandwiches or whatever you got from the canteen, and this friend hardly ever eats around you. They're like, no, I already ate, or I had a big breakfast, or something like this. This student over here is having some really weird headaches and things that they haven't had before, and also finding that sometimes they get really short of breath for no reason. Our friend over here actually has kind of stopped hanging out with your friends. So apart from at school, doesn't really go and hang out at your places anymore. And even at lunchtime, a lot of this guy's friends used to play sport, do soccer, and of course he can't do that anymore. So he kind of has to sit on the sideline. And our guy down the end actually got into a fight at a party last weekend. Now, again, that's not like him. He's not a brawler. He's not someone who gets into punch-ons. But something tipped him off, and last week he got into a big fight. So here's our next symptoms. This guy over here, actually not eating around friends. Our friend over here not eating around friends. This one over here having some kind of headaches and short of breath, stuff like this. This person over here not hanging around their friends after school, and even at lunchtime not having much fun. And this person here got into a punch-on. So add up those things with the other 2 symptoms and see who you're now most concerned about. Now for the last 2 symptoms or signs that I'm going to give you, and again, see if you can pick the protective factors and the risk factors. This friend here actually plays netball 3 times a week with a terrific group of friends outside of school, twice during the week and once on weekends, and has a great relationship with their mum, can talk to their mum about pretty much anything. This friend here studies all the time. They get home from school, they don't do sport, they don't do anything else, study, trying to get those grades back up. And also they have a part-time job, and last weekend they just didn't turn up for work, which isn't like them. They're really irresponsible. Our friend over here looks really tired, physically looks tired. You can see it, which is pretty unusual for a young person, but has a great relationship with their older brother and is able to talk through what they're going through with that brother. And our last friend over here has actually been talking back to teachers, giving teachers a bit of cheek. Not what they used to do. This is pretty new behaviour. And again, self-isolating, staying in their room a lot. Have a bit of a think now about all 5 symptoms. Try and pick which ones are risk and which ones are protective. Most of them are risk in this activity. And then we'll have a chat about who we should be most concerned about. And there's a really simple strategy that I'm going to give you in terms of when you're faced with a friend you're concerned about, what you can do. LAA, look, ask, act. Look, ask, act. First thing, pay a bit of attention. So, I've got my friend here and I can see that, they kind of look a bit sad when they get to school. Maybe they're worried about being bullied. But then I'm also noticing, on the weekends when I go and visit them, if they've had a netball game, they're really happy. So I'm paying attention to what's going on. With this friend over here, I'm going to be paying attention, hang on a minute, am I just imagining it, or are they actually hardly ever eating around us anymore? Because that's pretty unusual behaviour. With this friend over here, right at the end, I'm going to notice that there's a whole bunch of changes that happened really quickly. That's always a sign that our mental health isn't doing so well. Slow changes, that can happen to any of us, but when people's behaviour changes really quickly, we need to actually look out for them and ask a few questions. So, hey, don't be a creepy stalker, Don't go behind them with a notepad taking notes. Just pay a little bit more attention to how they're doing and what you see. The reason for that is the next step is to ask. And you're not going to ask like, hey, how are you doing? If you go up to most people and say, how are you? They'll say, yeah, I'm fine, because that's the answer that we've kind of been trained to give. So what you want to do is ask them about what you've seen. Hey, are you doing okay? Because like I noticed that like you don't eat around us anymore, and I heard that last week you didn't turn up to work, and I'm just kind of wondering what's going on. Can you explain it to me? Hey, are you going okay down at the end? Because like I heard you got into a big fight at work, at a party the other week, and I also noticed like, you know, you're really withdrawn, not hanging out with us anymore or skating. Like, can you explain it to me? Ask about what you've seen, because that way, first of all, it shows that you care and you've been paying attention. And secondly, it also makes them have to think about giving an honest answer. They don't have to. They might tell you to get stuffed, and that's okay. But at least you've shown that you're paying attention and that you care. All right, so we've looked and we've asked, are you okay? We've done those things. The next bit is to act. Now this is where it gets tricky, and this is where your sticky notes come in. I want you to think about the least tricky thing or the easiest thing you could do to help any of these friends. Well, this friend here, I could say, hey, do you want to hang out with my group at lunchtime? And that way, if those kids come over to bully you, you can like hang out with us and get some support. This friend over here, the least thing I could do is say, hey, let's go for a walk after school. Like, let's do something apart from just study. This friend over here, hey, I know you can't play sport, but like, do you want to do some weights or something together? And that way we can still do some physical activity. This guy over here, hey, I'm going to bring a pizza over to your place, you know, and just hang out. The least thing, the super easy thing. And then you might come up with a list of things from harder to hardest. Now, there's a stage that you're going to go, this is something I can't handle. That's not just because you're a young person, adults get like that too. And that's when you need to seek a professional. So I'm looking at my friends going, well, I think this person's okay, the bullying needs to stop, but I'm not sure if they need counselling. I'll ask them how they feel about it. But our friend down the end with the isolating and the fights and the trouble at school, yeah, I think he really needs to talk to someone apart from me, someone who can really help him out. So I'm going to say two things to him. Hey man, like, I really love you and I'm really worried about you, and like, I wonder if we talk to someone if it would help. And you notice I said we. I'm not going to say, hey, you should go off to an appointment at Kids Help. I'm going to say, hey, I'll come with you, yeah? We'll go together, give it a try. What can it hurt? And again, your friend might say, get stuffed. I'm not talking to a counsellor, I'm not talking to someone like that. Okay, you give them a call and get some advice for you, because you shouldn't have to carry this stuff on your own, okay? Sometimes you are going to need to actually bring an adult in who you trust. Depending who it is, it might not be a parent or carer, it might be someone from school, it might be someone like me, a youth worker. But as I said before, Kids Helpline, fantastic. The other thing is, and I've said it before, counsellors are like mechanics, yeah? If I go to a mechanic and I take my car and the mechanic does a rotten job and like charges me a heap of money, I'm not going to go back to that mechanic because I'm going to be like, that mechanic was lousy. But I'm not going to never take my car to a mechanic. I'm just going to find a good one. I wish all counsellors were great, some of them aren't. So if you go to a counsellor and you don't click with them, don't go back. You're not obligated, but don't give up on all counsellors, because there's a lot of really good ones out there. As always, there's an end of workshop task. This one's really short and really simple, and it might not even apply to you today, but tuck it away in the back of your mind for a time that it does. I want you, after the workshop, to think through your friends, your family, people you care about and people who are close to you. And I want you to have a bit of a think about, has there been any signs or symptoms that they're struggling? Have they been a little bit short of temper lately? Maybe they're isolating themselves. Maybe they just don't smile as much as they used to. And if you're not sure about that, again, just pay a little bit of extra attention like we talked about before. Then what I want you to do is write down that person's name on your piece of paper. Write down some of the things you've noticed. Hey, I've noticed that you just don't seem as happy as you used to be. I've noticed that you don't come out and hang out with us anymore. Whatever it is that you've noticed. Is there anything I can do? Are you okay? Can you explain what's going on? And then work out what the next step is. Maybe it's just go and do something fun. Maybe it's talk to them about actually getting some professional support from a trained adult. Once you've done that, write it down. And again, this one doesn't go in your socks and jocks drawer. This one stays out in the open, on your mirror, back of your bedroom door, wherever, as a bit of a reminder. Like I say, it might not be for all of you, but if not, tuck it away, because these are really useful strategies for as you get older. All right, that's today's workshop. Be free.